I want to thank Mr. Robin Stallings and also Mr. Delgado, Mario Delgado, and Tom Logan. Mr. Stallings gave us an introduction to cycling as an economic development tool, and Mr. Delgado and Mr. Tom Logan have given us some information on bicycle access to transit. Now we're going to be going to our next topic, which is on complete streets. You've heard all this information, but now we're going into more detail, and with us today is Mr. Mark Peña. Mr. Peña is a native of Edinburg, Texas, and graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. He is a partner in the law firm of Lewis, Monroe, and Peña in Edinburg and counsel to Edwards Abstract and Title Company. Mark is a founder of Ciclistas, Urbanos, an urban cycling organization, and a member of the Hidalgo County Metropolitan Planning Organization Bicycle Pedestrian Task Force. Also with us, joining Mark Peña, is Mr. Andrew Canon, who is originally from Houston and lived for several years in Austin area where he worked as a transportation planner for TXDOT. Andrew has lived in the Rio Grande Valley and been the transportation director of the Hidalgo County Metropolitan Planning Organization for the past 7 years. He oversees staff responsible for the transportation planning of all federal funded projects. Please help me welcome Mr. Mark Peña and Mr. Andrew Canon.
All right, I want to also introduce a third speaker today is my wife, Michelle. And Michelle, you want to tell folks a little bit about yourself? Come on up.
Good morning. Thank you for letting us be here. Officially, I work as a human resources and whatever else at a nursing home facility in McAllen, Texas, but also work with CR Club and Ciclistas Urbanos. So we're excited to be here and share with you today.
All right. We've got a lot of information to share with you, and so I want to get right into it, but let me just preface my comments with saying that I am not an engineer, I'm not a planner, and I'm not an architect, but I'm an advocate for livable communities. And that's my perspective today, is really, we're talking about complete streets, but I think it's helpful for me to always try to have a broad perspective of the whole picture. And this is really a part of trying to move towards more livable communities. This is a movement throughout the country, not just here in Edinburg and the rest of the valley, but it's a part of it. It's a very important part of it because it involves our public realm, our streets, our parks, parking lots, etc. All the things that we own as a unified group of citizens. And so let me give credit where credit is due. This presentation is based on a PowerPoint presentation that was put together by the National Complete Streets Coalition. It was an extensive PowerPoint. We actually trimmed it down in half, and we've added some things to it just to give a more valley feel to the presentation. But let me get right into it. I understand we have about 45 minutes, Marianella. We have a lot of before and after pictures at the end. Also want to encourage you all, because I don't want you all to wait till the end to ask your questions, because a lot of folks forget their question. I want you all to ask your questions during the presentation. That's the way I like it. I suspect Andrew and Michelle do too. So let's get right into it. What are complete streets? Let me ask this question. How many of you are engineers in the room? All right, great. An important element of our city staff members and our county officials. How many of you are planners or architects? Fantastic. Another very important element. Complete streets, what are they? Well, the coalition defines complete streets as complete streets are safe, comfortable, convenient for travel for everyone, regardless of age or ability, motorists, pedestrians, cyclists, and public transportation riders. So it includes everyone. But let me just add this part of it. And I really think that this is an important part of complete streets, is that we need to start thinking of our streets as more than just moving cars. And I think the entire dilemma that we are facing in our country has been brought about not only by the energy crisis, rising oil prices, the economy, the housing boom bust. All those things are forcing us to look at these things again and how we can make our cities more efficient. And so really Complete Streets is all about making our streets efficient, the best streets possible to move transportation around our cities. Because I believe, and I know Andrew feels the same way, that transportation is the lifeblood of our communities. Without transportation, I don't care what kind of transportation we're talking about, trains, cyclists, transit riders, pedestrians, this is what makes our economies survive. Without it, we're in trouble. So who wants complete streets? Well, I'm going to let you look at those figures, but I'm not going to read it all, but you can see that it's a growing movement. 55% of Americans would rather drive less and walk more. And what's really interesting is that among the millennial group, the generation, the 20-something generation, at least 77% of them want to live in communities where they can walk or ride a bike to work, to a restaurant, wherever. That's what they prefer. And so we need to start realizing that unless we go in this direction, we're going to lose economically. Because these young folks, we have younger children in our family. We have two in college, one about to go to college. We have 3 younger ones, but they want to live in vibrant, livable communities, places where they can have choices, not only choices in housing, but choices in transportation. And so this is the way to go. And let me just point out, we added some photos here. This is a photo of a project here in Edinburg. That is our cycling group, Ciclistas, Urbanos. This was taken on Freddy Gonzalez between Sugar Road and McCall. So when you all leave here today, if you have a chance, this is a very simple example of a road diet. This is where we narrowed the lanes by a foot, the center turn lane by 2 feet, and they were able to accommodate a 3-foot bike lane on each side of the road. Not ideal for cyclists, certainly, but it had a lot of other benefits. And that's why I say that just because this is a bike lane, we had a sidewalk on one side of the street, which is very close to the road. That bike lane actually offered a buffer, a 3-foot buffer for those pedestrians. There also, there's no sidewalk on the other side of the road. It gave those residents in those neighborhoods an opportunity to come out. But even better is that, I work down the street, and what I've noticed is that traffic has been calmed significantly, simply because the road has been narrowed. It was a very wide, very uncomfortable road to drive, and so and to walk especially. I walked that for a whole year just to test it out. Okay, so incomplete streets are unsafe. More than 40% of pedestrians in 2007, 2008 deaths occurred where no crosswalks were available. We see this all over the place. It's so frustrating to me. And I'm just going to use the University of Texas as an example. But we have a street out here, and I may be punished later on by my friend Andrew, but we have a street out here that's essentially a highway that runs right into the middle of our city. And there aren't enough crosswalks for folks to get across that roadway. But this is just an example of what's all over the city. We walk a lot, and we see places where there's no crosswalk. And for us to be fearful, I wouldn't even trust the place for my children. So streets are inadequate. And here's a photo of what we see all the time. There's certainly no sidewalks here. There's no bike lanes. No sidewalks, too dangerous to cross on foot, uninviting for bus riders. Okay, Tom Logan, there's an example. I know y'all are working hard to make your transit stops more accommodating and accessible, especially for disabled. But this is something we see all the time. That's a great picture. And when we first started our efforts in Edinburgh to work on walkability, one of the things that we walked around the city, we took photographs, and one of the things that we noticed that along Cano Street going into the downtown area, we saw a gentleman who was in a wheelchair every day, riding down the street in his wheelchair. And this is a busy street, especially in the mornings with the courthouse. And it was just so disappointing that our city and our county hadn't done anything to address that. Streets are, there's no room for people. I mean, these are just great examples of things that we see all the time. Now here's a wonderful photo, and it's a wonderful photo for various reasons, not only because of the beauty of the place, but look at the different types of transportation we're looking at. We've got cyclists, we have pedestrians, we have motor vehicles, we have public transit in the back right there. This is an area that is moving in a great direction, and this is an area that has addressed one of those livability principles, which is to have multiple modes of transportation. People want choices, especially in our country that we love the idea of freedom. Choices is a wonderful thing. And unfortunately, the reality is that we don't have a choice in many places. The only choice we have is we have to own a vehicle, and that's the only way to get around. So we still have too many roads that turn out like this. In fact, that looks like University Boulevard, Andrew Canon. I just played. Okay. Here's some other photos. I mean, another thing that we noticed when we walked around our city was that there were sidewalks that would just end. There was no place to go. Even leading up to the button to push the crosswalk button, there was no sidewalk. And so for those of us who are on foot, I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be in a wheelchair. And so here's a great picture of a man who can't even get into the place to wait for the bus. Of all trips, 50% are under 3 miles, 28% are 1 mile or less, 72% of trips 1 mile or less are driven. So there's a great amount of potential. And we have found this to be true with our cycling organization. The Ciclistas Urbanos wasn't simply organized for a social opportunity for people and to get out and exercise. It's really part of the effort to make our community more livable. And we have found that there are so many things that we do. In fact, I think Andrew and Michelle would agree with me that you experience in Virginia is also a member, Cheryl Medrano, another member of Ciclistas Urbanos, you experience life so much more on a bicycle or even walking. You see people, you greet people, you stop places that you wouldn't normally have stopped. In fact, I just read an article that came in today on the internet that said that, and this is, I hadn't really thought about this, is that one of the great benefits of cycling is that it actually promotes local consumption. Okay, people on bikes tend to shop more in local establishments. And I will say that to be true with us. We start out with breakfast on a Saturday morning at a local restaurant. We ride over to a bakery, La Reina Bakery, or we ride over to Olivier's, or we go over to the market, one of the markets in McAllen, the farmers markets. We're really promoting local consumerism. And people who get in their cars tend to drive off to the malls. These are not they tend not to be locally owned places. These are national chains, so they don't support locals. That's a really important point. Streets can benefit communities, increase capacity, improve safety, better health, economic growth, lower emissions, reduce costs, smarter growth, provide choices. And so, as I started this presentation, I mentioned that we're challenged in our country, and we're actually fortunate, in my opinion, because we're the pioneers of this transition that our country is making from a auto-oriented, sprawl society to one that's much more walkable, livable, pedestrian-oriented. And it's all about the economy. I mean, I wholeheartedly believe this. I mean, Andrew and other transportation officials will tell you that there's no more money to build all the highways and roads anymore. It just doesn't exist. And in fact, cities are struggling just to maintain the roads that they have. So if we're going to be successful economically, we've got to make the most of our roadways. These are public realms. And in fact, every time I look at a picture of a road in Europe, it's phenomenal. And I think, not even the best roads I can think of that I've ever visited come close to some of those beautiful public realms in Europe. And so we can learn from them. They didn't go through they don't have the same history we have. A lot of our growth occurred in the 1900s and after the 1950s. And so it was sprawl oriented. We moved out, our cars were dominating. Europe still had a very transit oriented, walkable communities. And so they have beautiful examples of the public realm, of streets and sidewalks. We can learn from them and use that to maximize the efficiency of our roadways. I love this photo because it tells it all. I mean, when you have more walkable, bike-friendly, transit-friendly communities, you have more healthier people. And so, Michelle, I know you were going to talk more about this. And let me transfer this to you.
Okay, so when we're talking about complete streets, at the very heart of complete street is the philosophy or the starting point that the complete street is an artery, a lifeblood, a way for people to move around, and that we consider that there are people on these streets. Not that we're designed first for the car that's going down the street and, oh yeah, there's a driver inside that car that might need to do something. But that the street takes into effect that this is something that is used by people, and we consider people first. And one of the things that that also then addresses is all of the human side of how we interact with streets and how we interact in our community. One of the things that's becoming very clear to us in our communities is the health of our citizens, not only their quality of life, but their own personal health, their own personal quality of life themselves and within the community. So you can see that the benefits of health, when we have a complete street, when we have options for transportation, when we have ways to use the feet that we were created with to get us around, not just to go sit down in our car and drive, that it benefits our health. Obesity is one of the big factors. Congratulations to the Rio Grande Valley, and I say that tongue-in-cheek. We are one of the top 10 areas in the country for obesity. We're right at a 40% mark for our population. That's not where we want to be overachievers. So we've got a lot of work to do to help that, and the cost that that's passing on to us is phenomenal. So you can see the United States, again, we're leading the way at the red with our obesity rate because of we don't have options for our transit. There's my red button. So we can also see states, just for a local level, states with the lowest levels of where you have options for biking and walking for how you move, where the lowest levels where you have options for a complete street, you have the highest rates for obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure. And for any of you who can't see it, Texas is right over here. And again, congratulations to us. We're leading the way with our rate of population with diabetes. We're one of the spikes over here on this side of the screen. So it's a great challenge for us. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have adopted complete street policies as one of a really great prevention way. We want to be doing preventative stuff, not doing it on the other end. We'd rather not have stuff happen. We'd rather our people be healthy first, and this is one of the great ways to do it by providing options. 1/3 of regular transit users. So there's the great saying, every bus ride begins with a walk. We have to walk to the station, walk to our stop, walk from our stop to our destination. When we have the option to move differently than just in our car, we can build our exercise into meet our requirements for what we need to be doing in our daily lives. My father always used to love to tease us about, you're going to get in your car to drive, to go to the park, to walk. He goes, why don't you just walk out the door? But we do that, right? We've isolated our exercise and our health things to, okay, I'm going to go drive over to the club and exercise for maybe 45 minutes, then get in my car, drive back, and do everything else. If we had the opportunity and the choices available to be able to walk, to bike, to incorporate that in our daily lives, it's just a wonderful thing for us, not only our health-wise, but the community interaction, the social interaction we have while we're doing that. The benefits are tremendous. People with disabilities. I work with what is basically termed a vulnerable population. This is a group of folks that they're doing rehabilitation, age limits, physical disabilities. They are excluded from a lot of the public realm from being an active part of their community because the options and the choices just are not there for them. They are not able to interact with everyone else and have as full a life as possible because the options just aren't there. Older adults especially, I like to refer to it as we have a brain drain. Once you stop driving in this country, you basically do not get to interact or live as full a life as everybody else. Everything is dependent on being able to get to your doctor's office, to your grocery store, to the pharmacy, to church, to any activities you want to go to even go to the movies. We're all dependent on being able to drive. If you cannot drive, all of those options are held back from you, as well as the rest of the community does not get all of your energy and experience as part of their community experience as well. So everybody suffers from it. If you have teenagers like I do, they remind you routinely how much they are suffering because they do not have a car that they can go into to drive. So there's big parts of our population that are not being able to interact with each other, and of course, from the economic side, are not able to be out there and participate economically with our communities because their choices are limited. And our children, we're starting, of course, to see the down effect. Some of us, I had, again, my father who would say, I walked 5 miles in the snow to school, and I'm like, you're in Central Texas. There was no, there was no snow all the time. But they walked to school. We do have, with Bike Texas, working with a wonderful program, Safe Routes to School. I have kids in all of the different levels of the school system here. Our schools aren't safe for our kids to get to walk to. There's not the complete streets there for them to be there. So what do? We all drive up to school. And our kids don't have a way to put their exercise to be active individuals, and they start a habit that they keep the rest of their lives without daily activity being a part of what they do. And a lot of it is they don't have transportation choices as well. So we want our kids to be active, and we want them to also have that confidence to be able to gain their own independence. Because of course we all want to know that our 30-year-old will someday move out of the house, right? And I will pass on so we can get on to some of the lower economic costs too. But again, a lot of what the Complete Streets is realizing that we have, that we're designing for the people who use these arteries, how they can get along, and how they can be involved in the economic development growth experience of our communities.
Let me recommend a book to you all. It's called Traffic by Tom Vanderbilt. It's a wonderful book. It really talks, it's for lay people. It's not really from an engineering perspective. It talks about the psychology of roads. And it's very interesting. One of the facts, and Michelle was talking about how this affects children, but one of the facts I found really amazing is that in 1969, nearly half of American children walked or biked to school. Now just 16% do. From 1977 to 95, the number of trips people made on foot dropped by nearly half. It's just phenomenal what has happened over the last 50 years.
Trying to see where we are here on this enhancements. So yeah, we go through the enhancement process, and I think Robin touched upon there's fewer and fewer enhancement dollars available to the state of Texas coming out from the Fed program now. I'm not sure why I have feedback. I'm sorry. That's off. So what and unfortunately, when we go through rescissions, which is the federal government comes down and basically says, oh, that money we promised you, we're pulling that back. We have to go through and identify where we can make those cuts, and unfortunately, enhancements is one of those first things that's cut. It's much easier on the palette for elected officials to do that than it is to take away from actual highway or transportation projects, unfortunately. But we do find that enhancement projects that they do help with the increased property value when you can do these in areas and neighborhoods where you do have a walking, sustainable community where cycling and walking is interactive into the community. States, yeah, we only spend about 1.6% if we spend that much. And a lot of that for Texas, I can tell you, it comes through the Safe Routes to School program. A great deal of the funding that we have does that. That's a national per capita there. I can tell you that for the MPO, I have a budget of about $1.4 billion. We'd actually be lucky if at about 1% of that was identified for bicycling facilities as a standalone. I apologize. We have projects where cycling facilities are integrated into roadway improvement projects, but we don't look at that separately. So that whether it would be expansion of roadway projects or new roadway projects, or simple overlay projects on rehabilitation, we look at try to incorporating cycling facilities into that. Unfortunately, we've had a very difficult time with making, and I really don't know a better way to put it, multimodalism as sexy to elected officials as we would like it to be. It's not as palatable. Many elected officials, they have election years coming up, they want a large sign out. It's a sheet of plywood, says this project was brought to you by so-and-so, and I spent so many millions of dollars to get this new road for you. Those are the type of things that they look for, and unfortunately these smaller things, smaller financial things, larger benefit, just aren't as apparent to them at times, and we haven't successfully gotten the advocacy down here in the Valley to make it as apparent to those elected officials yet, but we're always striving towards that. So I like that, $1 million spent on highway projects, cost-benefit analysis. It's $11.80 of benefits gained. That's through reduction of vehicle miles, through reduction of carbon monoxide, through reduction of gas usage. More importantly, I like the top, where am I? I apologize. Create 11 to 14 jobs per $1 million spent as opposed to just 7 for roadway projects. I think that's really important, and it's something with the economic times that we have now that we're going to try harder with my staff to sell to our elected officials. Essentially, it's much easier when you're doing a roadway project to go out, and if it's a rehabilitation project, you've got one guy, because somebody asked me how this could be possible. You've got one guy that's sitting on top of a maintainer. You've got one guy sitting on top of an asphalt machine. You've got one guy sitting on top of an asphalt grinder. Not a lot of employment opportunities. If anything else, it's more diesel usage, more carbon monoxide output. When you're doing cycling trails, something like what we did on 2nd Street or on Bicentennial, you have a crew out there. They're laying forms. They're pouring cement. They're out there doing groundwork and irrigation work with it. So I think that's something that we need to sell more to our elected officials, that there's a greater opportunity for job creation as you go through looking at these true complete street concepts and incorporating cycling. And all that economic vitality comes back to our community, of course. Is this yours or mine? Yours. Okay. We do rank number 45. Oh, yes, I have a chart to go with this. I apologize. Cycling and walking levels. No Texas city is in the top 20 excuse me, for safety. Austin is actually number 27. That I found completely shocking. And that came from the Alliance for Biking and Walking benchmark report that just came out this year. And then Texas ranks number 43 for bike ped fatalities, and Austin ranked number 30. I really thought Austin was going to be a lot lower because it seems that the mindset is there for Austin to incorporate that, and there's such a large cycling community there, such a large multimodal community there. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised about the number 43 for fatalities, but I do find it interesting that we rank number 43 for fatalities and we're right at number 45 for providing for walking levels. I think that there's definitely a situation there that needs to be examined more, and find other reports or try to incorporate that into our reports that we do and see what that is.
Let me, I just want to go back to one of these slides because it's actually local. That slide on the top is a picture of our cycling group at Moonbeams in McAllen, one of our frequent stops. It's a bike-friendly coffee shop. We love it. But just to reemphasize the benefits, the economic benefits of cycling. Once again, we're buying local, and that's what it's all about. Okay, so we're going to move on to livability. As I mentioned, Complete Streets is really a part of the whole livability picture. Livability includes a lot of other things, and one of them is transportation choices, but also living choices. Where do we live? I mean, the fact of the matter is that we have a lot of baby boomers that are aging, and we have younger folks who want to live in different types of communities. They don't want to live in the same old suburb, boring suburb type of environment. And the baby boomers like ourselves, we're ready to transition. Michelle and I can already see a time when, hopefully, when our children have moved out of the house and we can downsize, and we live in a ranch style home that's very large, takes a lot of energy. We'd like to be in a community that is walkable. We can just step out our door, go to the coffee shop, walk down to the church, go to the office. So someday we hope to do that, and we need to address that. And the cities that don't address that, once again, are going to fail. And so livable communities is not only about transportation, it's about housing, but it's also about the way our cities feel. You know this when you're there, and that's why I really believe that you don't need to be an engineer, an architect, or a planner to know this stuff. This is stuff that all of us know. We know the places that we like to travel to. Where do you like to go? I mean, some people may say Disney World. Well, Disney World was built to look like a livable community. It's walkable. You got street cafes. Where do you like to go? Las Vegas. Many of the hotels in Las Vegas were designed to be very personal to the human element. You know, these are places that you want to be at. New York City, Portland. Robin.
May I point out that there are walkable communities within the casinos in Las Vegas, but you take your life in your hands to get from one to the other.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But you know, places like Seattle, even San Francisco, and in Texas, I would venture to say that Austin is on the forefront. And it's amazing to me that it's number 30. Austin's done so much. If you go downtown, both Michelle and I went to school there. Michelle grew up there. Downtown used to be a dead zone. After 5, nobody was there, except for maybe 6th Street late at night. But the rest of downtown was not live. Now Austin's changed. I mean, you go down there, they're building dense communities, apartments, residential. They have places to relax and to have a cup of coffee. They have grocery stores downtown. We were there in the middle of summer, 100 degrees. People were walking around all over the place. It's because they've done things. They've planted street trees. The sidewalks are wide, very friendly. I encourage you all to just visit and observe. This is what's happening, and they're on the forefront. San Antonio is also doing a lot of great things. Around the Pearl, the old Pearl Brewery. There's some places around the downtown area. So livable communities is really what it's all about, and we need to change in that direction, or else we're going to be left behind. So walkable communities means happier communities. Residents of walkable are more likely to be socially engaged. That's another fact that came out of this book, Traffic, is that people who live in walkable communities, people who actually live in neighborhoods where the traffic is slower, are happier, and believe it or not, they're wealthier. I mean, that's what the percentages show. And so there's all kinds of correlations between walkable communities and the benefits to society. Sustainable streets. I mean, this is a buzzword now, sustainability. And we need to make our streets more sustainable. When I go out there and I you know, this recent weather event that we had last week and the flooding that it caused, you know, all that water, we need that water. Really, if we could find a way to channel that water and into the right places, wow, you know, the environmental benefits of that would be fantastic. And so here's just an example of some of the things that you can consider when you're designing a roadway. Okay, so changing policy. The great thing is that policies are being adopted and the country is moving in this direction. A complete streets policy ensures that the entire right-of-way is planned, designed, operated to provide safe access for all users. Once again, it's about making our roads more efficient and more effective. When I drive out there on University or drive down, you know, some of our other streets, McCall, 10th, gosh, you know, I guess doing this over the last few years, it's made me think that our streets are just not efficient. They're not economically efficient. We're wasting money because we haven't maximized the use of that public realm. We have some great federal guidance that has come down, and this is actually back in 2000 by the FHWA. Bicycling and walking facilities will be incorporated into all transportation projects unless exceptional circumstances exist. Why have a policy? Once again, to save money in the long run. Retrofit projects are always, they cost a lot more. We're experiencing this in our own neighborhood where they're having to retrofit a street. It's causing a lot of heartache for the neighbors and a lot of cost for the city. Okay, so here's some before and after photos. And this is really, we're going to start from the easy ones and to the more complex. But this is a really simple solution. I mean, we have a path that is obviously being used in a neighborhood. There's a little boy or a little girl on a bicycle. And they did something very simple. They added a sidewalk. Did some nice landscaping. Here's another one. I mean, here's another simple solution, but we have a road that really doesn't look very attractive. There's another road up on top. Certainly a road that would be difficult for cyclists. There's no bike lanes. But look what's accomplished. It's just better planning and once again incorporating different types of transit. And so we have a bike lane here. We have a very nice road. We have pedestrian amenities with nice street trees. It's very simple. Here's a downtown area. Very typical. I mean, something we'd see right here on University or Klausner. And look what has been accomplished. Yeah, I know you engineers are finding more details in this photo than I am, but I'm just seeing the simple beauty of it. And as a cyclist, it makes me feel comfortable. You know, I will tell you, and I don't know how the other cyclists in the room feel, but I'm actually not intimidated by the number of cars. What intimidates me as a cyclist is the speed of the cars. I mean, when I'm downtown, I feel very comfortable. Traffic is moving at a nice, calm speed. But when I'm on Jackson or I'm on 10th Street and the traffic is going 55, 60 miles an hour beside you, it's very uncomfortable. And so they've done some things here that, let me just go back, they've done some things here that have just made it much more comfortable. And I would venture to guess that the volume of traffic that's able to accommodate is probably just as much or maybe a little less. But once again, you're accommodating more types of transportation. Here's a before of a downtown district. There's no bike lanes. I don't see any transit in the area. Standard turn lane, we see those all over. Now this is something that Austin has, and I love it. These parking spaces where you back into them instead of going to them forward, okay? And so what it accomplishes, because you have a bike lane here, the driver, when they come out of that parking lot, they're going to see the cyclist. It also is, it really makes a lot of sense if you're shopping. You have your trunk right there in the back near the sidewalk. So here, I mean, these are simple solutions. So basically, now I will say that they've reduced the lanes. They've taken out a lane, but you've also added a bike lane. You still have the center turn lane, and I suspect on this center downtown street, the volume is such that this works. Okay.
And it reduces congestion.
Reduces congestion.
Yeah, they work really well in downtown Austin. One of the ways that they help with alleviating congestion is that there's signage all over South Congress where they have this implemented. As you're pulling up to the spot, you simply just turn on your indicator. People know what you're doing. They're stopping. You're backing into the space. What it does is it facilitates ease on exiting the space instead of slowly backing out, inching out, worrying on if you're going to get hit and you hold up 2 lanes of traffic. This allows you to be able to see the oncoming traffic and you just flow into it easily. So it really has a reduction on congestion, which is what you're always looking for, and then a safety measure that goes along with it. I have suggested a couple of projects here in the area to TXDOT locally on this idea. Let's just say that we get reminded that we're not Austin quite frequently. So we're looking to still try. There's a couple of local projects we have that I think facilitation of this would be a remarkable thing to do and would help with some viability in the neighborhoods and with the businesses for that.
The only other thing I wanted to add here, and this is for everyone who's doing planning or is working from the economic impact, from the slide before, basically what you can see is this is really designed for let's get the cars through here, which is a lot of the way we design most of our streets. Let's get that, which is not that's bad or wrong, because that's part of the purpose of the street. But if I'm any of the business owners that are along the side of it, I would like to know that somebody can actually see me. Now, not everybody's going to zip by at 45 miles an hour. So with this kind of a setup, I have where people can park, like Mark mentioned, your trunk is right there, so you can go into my store, you can buy all that you need and go ahead and load it very easily, especially if I am the mom who is shopping, where still a lot of traditionally we have a lot of our economic engine going. I'm comfortable because the kids and I can get out of the car, we can go in, we can see what's going on because the speed has been calmed a little bit. So there's going to be a lot more economic and especially local activity. That street is going to be economically more viable. The businesses are going to succeed because we're not just flying everybody through. We're saying, hey, we've got something worthwhile here. You want to be here, you want to participate in this, and you want to come in and shop or eat here, have your office here, do whatever. As well as the bike lanes. You know, of course, the only other improvement I want to see there is one of those parking spaces reserved specifically for the bikes to pull off and park and shop too. But all of those people passing on bikes have a chance to see all of those businesses and go and shop and participate in those as well.
Let me point something out, and I want to do it on these photos. You'll notice that on all of these photos, let's see here, that one, I guess it's better presented here. On-street parking is a positive thing. A lot of folks say, well, why don't we just get rid of the on-street parking? They can park in a parking lot. That doesn't help. And what studies have shown is that people actually prefer to have a buffer between the sidewalk and the main lanes of the road. Because it provides that psychological, once again, it's in this book, Traffic, it's that psychological perspective of a pedestrian. And so when you're looking at redesigning your streets, don't automatically assume that we should take away the on-street parking. It benefits, first of all, economically. People like, not necessarily, they're certain they're going to have a parking space, but the possibility, it's like playing doing some poker. Just the chance of having a parking slot is what people like. And the businesses want parking. And it actually benefits pedestrians. And so don't assume that that's the best way to go. Also, don't always think that the one-way traffic is the way to go. One-way traffic tends to speed traffic up. It also, you have traffic for commuters, they only go down that street one time a day. If you have a two-way traffic, think of the opportunities. You have two-way traffic, there's an opportunity for them to go the other direction after they got to work. And so it promotes economic vitality of the area. Here's some more transformations, and I love these. These actually came from the Sierra Club Anti-Sprawl website. It's a great website. Sierra has been working on reducing sprawl for a long time. But here's a street, looks very much like maybe something around the Hunt development, out at near Mission. But notice that they have, now it wasn't so bad. I mean, they had transit. Tom, there's the bus, which is great. But now we've got a streetcar. The valley is looking at this. I foresee in the next 15 years, we're probably going to have some type of rail in the valley. Austin's got it, San Antonio's got it, Houston's got it, Dallas has got it. We've ridden them all, and they're fantastic. They're comfortable, they're beautiful, they get you places quickly. It's socially engaging. You see people, you see places. It's a great place to be. But notice they're bringing in street trees, landscaping. It's becoming a friendlier place to be. And of course, the ultimate goal is to make them vibrant economically. And so, this is a presentation Marianella and I put together. This is compact urban development, mixed use. You have people living up top, you have shops on the bottom, and then the street complements that because it's the public realm. I mean, you look at that compared to the first photo, this is where you want to be. This is where you're going to go travel to. This is where we want to be. Here's another, typical. It actually looks like a nice road, actually. You can see the highway in the background. There's a gas station, very convenient. But once again, you want to make it more vibrant. You want to make it more successful economically. And so, we have a bike lane. It was there first of all, but there's a bike lane here. You have compact development, mixed use, retail, improvements to the roadway. The sidewalks have been widened, a very friendly pedestrian realm, street trees. These are all things that our cities need to be thinking about as they move forward. Just a great place. And once again, look, you have on-street parking. That's important. Don't get rid of your parking. This to me looks like East University in Edinburg. There's El Buen Pastor Church in the background. Okay? Now this is not a place, except for the church, this is not a place I would want to be at night. Somebody may want to have their nails done over there, but look what's going on here. I mean, this is, once again, these are computer generated, but you're improving the pedestrian realm. You're adding some landscaping, some medians. You brought in residential. Jane Jacobs, one of the great writers who wrote a book called The Death and Life of Great American Cities back in the 60s, her whole theory was you've got to have round-the-clock activity in a city, not just from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. It's got to be constant to make it economically successful. So you got to bring people into your downtowns. People have to live there. That you don't want them to drive away at night. But look at this. We've got a cyclist. We've got streetcars, street trees, on-street parking. It's a great place to live. What is happening? Where is all this activity happening? Well, most of it is happening on the city level, believe it or not. Not on the state level. MPOs are doing some too. Thank you, Andrew Canon. Counties are doing some too. But really where it's happening is at the cities. And so for those of you who work in the city, this can be done. And I will say from Edinburgh's perspective, we're trying. There are some challenges, of course, but we're moving in the right direction.
Can I touch on it?
Yes.
Something I want to mention on the cities, when you talk to your elected officials and when elections are coming up, one thing to think about and talk to them about, and it's not to pick on McAllen exclusively, I live in McAllen, but McAllen doesn't allow for any mixed-use development on their coding ordinances that they have. You're either commercial, residential, there's no mix. And we've really missed out on some opportunities in McAllen from a planning standpoint on some areas where we could have had some really great mixed-use development, we think. The convention center, for one. I think there was really a great opportunity to have some lofts, some condos built above those storefronts there, next to the convention center with the restaurants that are there. There's a nice park across the way of Ware Road. There's more mixed-use development happening across Ware Road on the other side of 83. So that's an opportunity that I personally think as a planner that we missed out on, that we want to educate our elected officials. We have other development coming up. You know, there's a proposed horse track that's being considered down by State Farm Arena. I think Cantu Construction is looking at some development along the way. That provides an opportunity there for also mixed-use development. I mean, what a better way to bring your workforce in to where you want them to be over at State Farm or at a horse track if it takes off as big as they're hoping, than to provide for that type of development there so they can live very, very close, be able to do some shopping, gather the goods that they need, and be able to be within walking distance of their employment. So it's an education process that we have to go through if our elected officials allow this type of mixed-use development to happen and grow. Yes, sir.
You know, when you have undeveloped areas that obviously in 10, 15, 20 years are going to, the potential for the commercial development is there. How do you do mixed use of the spot zoning, but prevent individuals that can afford to purchase the property before it's developed, or before it becomes what it's going to become, and they're going to put in perhaps shanties or whatever, and then later on it just ruins the future of the area?
I really don't have an answer for that, because that's where greed comes in, and unfortunately we have that type of development that keeps going. We do have a sustainable plan through the MPO. We did several years of workshops and charrettes on, and sort of we went out to the public and asked them, how do you want to see it grow? How do you want our growth to be? And they identified those type of situations, but to be able to get out there and do that before other people take advantage of that situation, know that there's going to be new development, whether it be a roadway, a loop, a rail system, that's very difficult to do. Cities just need to incorporate that as part of their complete streets plan, as well as, you know, sustainable plans. I know some areas have some beautiful programs. San Juan has got a fantastic downtown revitalization plan where they're incorporating a lot of these things, and they're trying to capture that land base, as make sure those type of situations don't happen. So I think it's really the mindset of the civic and the city leaders that we have that are out there, and educating them why you think this is important as a citizen and as someone who's going to vote them into office and maybe re-vote them into office.
Yes, Virginia.
Mark showed the photos of the streets while ago that were quieted down. The streets that were quieted down. I saw 10th Street in McAllen. I saw Main Street connecting the Central Business District going past the City Hall, connecting toward Quinta-Mazatlan. I saw the Arts District on Main Street there connecting with a residential area. And that's just something I just saw, and I'm no city planner.
Renee, let me go back to your question. That's a great point, Virginia, because there's potential everywhere. And the wonderful thing about our communities is we have some good bone structure. I look at FAR, I look at Westaco, downtown McAllen. There's some great potential, and I think the key, Renee, is sprawl has been codified. There are on-site parking requirements, off-street parking requirements for new businesses coming in. Everything has to look like the suburbs, and that's not what we want. If people wanted to live in the suburbs, let me put it a different way. If we turn our cities into suburbs, why would people want to live there when they can buy something less expensive out in the suburbs? People want to live downtowns because it's something special. Choices are being offered. You've got to codify this. Form-based codes are the way to go. And Edinburg has adopted a form-based code. Austin's adopted new codes. This stuff has to be codified. You've got to require that when somebody builds something, they're going to build it in conformity with this bigger vision. These slides just point out that the U.S. government, U.S. DOT, there's policies in place that support this stuff. Even TXDOT, my former employer, has some policies, and some recent policies that have to ensure that bicycle pedestrian amenities are at least explored They may not be right for that street, but you've got to look at it because that's the policy now of the state. They want complete streets, okay? Now, I will say that Bike Texas has been working hard trying to get our state to adopt a complete streets bill, a new law, and hopefully in the next session we'll see something. What do you think, Robin?
I don't know. We were really optimistic, but then we heard your brother's not running for re-election.
Okay. So for more information on complete streets, for those of you who work with cities, county governments, this is a great website. I recommend it highly. Go to it. There's all kinds of information there, sample policies. Benjamin.
Yes, Mark. Just going back to what Andrew was saying about this mixed use, and right now, in the exact location where you're talking about west of the convention center, there is a proposed development project that includes a lot of the proposed street cross sections look a lot like what you're proposing with the white sidewalks with the bike lanes and everything like that, and also has proposed mixed use on there. It's on the website. It's also on the monitor. If you need more information on there.
Yeah, I'm real happy that McAllen is looking at these possibilities. And let me just say, it's not just a matter of getting your cities to move in this direction. Citizens sometimes have a hard time with it because we're so programmed to want suburban auto-type development. We want to live in our quiet little neighborhoods. And if we start thinking outside the box, you're talking mixed use, you're talking about a restaurant down the street. You're talking about a store down the street. People say, I don't want that in my neighborhood. So you've got to, first it's got to be quality. You've got to address those concerns, but you've got to have the community backing. The community's got to be involved in these decisions, and it's not easy. It's challenging, but if you can accomplish it, it's fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how it looks great. I'm wondering how to sort of make it better, and I'm thinking of two things. One is the environmental. Is this stuff being LEED certified in terms of, like, I'm looking at extra impervious cover because you've got these, big chunks of concrete. And I know, I've seen this happen in my own neighborhood in San Antonio. Sometimes I'm doing it in ways that is sensitive to that and sometimes not.
Right.
And also the cultural history of the area and whether that is respected and how we incorporate that sort of into these improvements, because we're moving from what used to be culturally and environmentally actually more sound in a lot of cases, then became sort of suburban monoculture.
Right.
And now we're trying to move to something better. How do we respect what we had in the past?
All of those points are very important. And as we mentioned earlier, sustainability, environmental sensitivity is important. I just finished reading a book about the carbon footprint of cities. And it's actually, the carbon footprint of New York City is actually less than some of the smaller cities. Because per capita, okay? Because they live in dense communities. They tend to live in multi-rise housing. The energy used in those is less per capita than you have being used in a suburb where there's a lot of houses, a lot of roof space. Those places are left, air conditioners are left running all day long. So that's just an example. But yes, I mean, when we design streets, they've got to be environmentally sensitive and context sensitive to the neighborhood. As you mentioned, the cultural sensitivity. That's a big point. And I came back to the slide because TXDOT adopted in 2009 this context sensitive solutions in designing major urban thoroughfares for walkable communities. A wonderful manual. I recommend it to all the engineers in the room. It is produced by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, but it was also collaboration with the Congress for New Urbanism, which is one of the main organizations pushing for these livable communities. So what essentially the theory is that when you design a roadway, you take into consideration the context of the neighborhood. So you don't have these roads that are traveling 55 miles an hour through a neighborhood, or you have sidewalks or whatever the neighborhood context is. You respect that. And I would say that culture is a big part of that also. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Michelle.